even if a doctor says you have this negative prognosis, so if you're going to die in a certain amount of time, those things are just statistics and
Mm-hmm.
just numbers that are based on people that just follow the conventional medicine. So it's like if you only listen to the oncologist, this is what's going to happen. You have 2 years to live or whatever they're going to
Right.
say. But if you build that comprehensive treatment plan with the 7 pathways of healing around your life,
Mm-hmm.
then there's this upward spiral of healing, and you can get better and better and improve more and more with
Mm-hmm.
every step you take and every treatment that you try. And so, no matter what, there's always hope for you, and
Yeah.
you can heal. And your body is a magnificent, marvelous invention of glorious healing potential.
Mm-hmm.
I never ever want you to give up on yourself or anyone else that you love.
Beloved heart, I invite you to sign up to my mailing list, and as a result of signing up, you will get a free gift. It's a 5D rebalance tune up of all these chakras, and chakras are my specialty. So I would love to gift you with this transmission that is filled with light language and codes to help you stay balanced and tuned up during these increased frequencies of energy of this ascension, this new earth frequency. So check out the links in the notes of this show. And I look forward to connecting with you. I am sending you love. This is the transfiguration of the new you. Hello, beloved hearts. Welcome back to my podcast called Ascended Earth. I am the host, Monica Bermudez, and we have a very special guest here with us. His name is Dr. David Lemmon, and he wants to share us, information about ways of healing and healing cancer, pretty much. And so he has like so much studies on this and books as well that we're going to get into. But first of all, just to shed some light, I feel like cancer is an epidemic right now that's happening everywhere in the world. And I'm sure there's many of us, as listeners who've lost friends or family to cancer. I myself, personally have lost my uncle recently to cancer. And I also lost a mentor who was also my friend to cancer as well. So I know there's, other ways of like alternate ways that we could improve the medicine and the technology that goes with it to better our lives, to be able to improve and, find ways of healing cancer and anything else. So that's why we have our special guest here who is going to shed more light on ways of healing cancer. He's going to talk about the 7 pathways of healing for cancer that he's been working on for a while. But let me introduce you to him. And Dr. David Lemmon is a renowned naturopathic physician, author, and course creator focused on cancer healing. His unique approach helps cancer patients increase their probability of long term remission with minimal side effects like hair loss, nausea, pain, and fatigue. Through his 7 pathways of cancer healing program, patients can live longer and live better. Dr. Lemon is creator of the Cancer Detox course and author of Natural Home and Herbal Healing, offering natural solutions for a longer, healthier life. And he has a new upcoming book coming out very soon, maybe in about by the time this gets released, it might be within that same week. But it's called Cancer and the Biology of Hope. So I would like to personally welcome you, Dr. David, to the show, and thank you for being with us here and sharing your medicine, your technique, and your ways of like helping us to improve our lives.
Thank you so much, Monica. Great to be here.
Awesome. So I would love, and actually the listeners would love to hear more about your backstory. Like what led you to like do this, all this work and, research and focus.
It was a bit of a long and winding road. I started out as an art major in college, and drawing and painting were always my passions growing up. And so, just through the twists and turns of life, I got turned on to um, going into healthcare eventually and looked into all the different options of chiropractic and conventional medicine. And prosthetics and orthotics and all kinds of interesting things, but nothing really clicked and nothing really gelled. So I just continued on the art path. And then a few years after I graduated from college, I found out about naturopathic medicine and just really clicked that holistic picture. Growing up in Colorado, where I was in Denver, there wasn't any naturopathic doctors there yet that I'd ever heard of, so I wasn't ever exposed to that and didn't know it existed. So just learning about that, I was like, that's what I want to do, and so I set my sights and eventually getting back to that. And my wife and I had already started a family, and we had 4 children when I decided to go back and do 3 years of pre-med studies and then 5 years of naturopathic medical school in Portland, Oregon. And
Mm-hmm.
then we had our fifth child in the middle of medical school, and that was a whole adventure. And
Hmm.
then our sixth last baby came right after, or a couple of years after graduation.
Yeah.
So I've been practicing for 10 years now, and it's been just an amazing journey getting to help people, getting to see people improve. And the frustrating, agonizing piece of it is I was in the middle of my medical school program in 2012 and in Portland, Oregon, and my sister was a few states away, and she was just suddenly diagnosed with a rare form of bile duct cancer
Mm-hmm.
that had spread to her liver. And her very first appointment with the oncologist, they said, you have 0% chance of survival with or without treatment. There's not really anything that
Mm.
we can do for you to save your life, essentially, just right at the very beginning.
Wow.
And uh, and I was in naturopathic medical school in Oregon, learning about all these amazing
Mm-hmm.
um, cancer treatments and things that could be done. But there was just too much distance, and I was in the middle of this intense program with a large family and just trying to make ends meet. So just trying to support her with a few calls and everything,
Mm-hmm.
and thought we would have a year or two to help her through this journey.
Yeah.
But she ended up passing away within 6 weeks of
Mm-hmm.
diagnosis, right during Thanksgiving time that in 2012. And so that was just a really devastating
Yeah.
experience. She was in her early 30s and she left behind, 2 young children, and it was just a heart-shattering
Mm-hmm.
experience to have to go through and not have
Yeah.
all those resources and tools in one place. So that was what lit my fire to
Mm-hmm.
really focus on cancer and researching it, understanding it, and helping to create this book that is being released in a couple weeks,
Mm-hmm.
Cancer and the Biology of Hope, the 7 Pathways of Healing. So I created that so that anyone, anywhere on the earth, the English speaking language just starting out and hopefully translations soon to come,
Mm-hmm.
but can have all these hundreds and hundreds of scientifically documented, researched supplements, herbs, techniques, lifestyle
Mm-hmm.
changes through the 7 pathways that can be all in one place that you can add and understand what can help, what can improve. And unlike conventional medicines,
Mm-hmm.
often conventional medications will have side effects, and then that'll cause some problems, and then you'll have to take another medication to fix the side effects of the first medication, and kind
That
of
one
this
has side effects
snowball
too.
of
Yeah.
covering the side effects and treating and managing, and it just gets bigger and bigger,
Yeah.
and health can go down more and more the more add things you add on. But with natural, nutritional, and lifestyle medicine, it's kind of the opposite, where it's an upward spiral where there's positive side effects. Like if you're eating a really healthy diet, that is anti-inflammatory. That inflammation helps you lose weight. It helps you have more energy. It helps
Mm-hmm.
you have better bowel movements. It helps like every area of your life, your mood is better and brighter. So there's with most all of these natural and holistic treatments that are talked about in the book, they have positive side effects. So there's this spillover where every area of your life, your mood, your energy, your sleep, your social life, your spiritual connection can get better and better the more of these things that you add into your life.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, so first of all, I'm sorry about your sister. But
Yeah.
it's very heartbreaking to lose, friends and family to something like this, so sudden, right? And it's just very noble of you to be doing the study and finding ways to help others as well. Um, a better pathway, for them to heal from cancer. Which is why I'm so glad you're here with us, to shed some light in that and give others hope as well. As a naturopath, I've always liked naturopaths more so than the conventional way of the doctor, because I feel like if I understand this right, and you can correct me on this, it's like a blend, right, of like herbal medicine as well as like the medicine, like the medical field, right? So maybe you could like shed some more light on that for listeners who are wondering what is a naturopath.
Yeah, naturopaths are licensed in about half of the states in the US right now. So there's about half that don't have licensure yet, but it's growing. It started out 10 years ago when I was in school with about, 13, 14 states, and it's grown to about 25 now. So it's definitely every year it's growing and growing because it is kind of the future of medicine where you're taking into account diet and nutrition and lifestyle, breathing, meditation, all the
Mm,
different aspects of health, exercise, the things that doctors are supposed to be trained in. And you'll hear commercials, ask your doctor if this is right for you. But medical school, in the conventional medical schools, they're not trained in nutrition, they're not trained in vitamins, they're not trained in exercise, physiology, anything like that. So they don't really have a lot to say unless they do a lot of extra education after they graduate from medical school. So,
mm,
so we have all the same basic core science classes, anatomy and physiology, and biochemistry and all that good stuff in the first kind of 2 years of medical school. But then after that, when it comes to treatment, there's some pharmacology, so you can prescribe medication if necessary as a last resort. But there's extensive training in nutrition and herbal medicine and homeopathy and physical manipulation, kind of like a chiropractor with adjusting the spine and the
mhm,
muscles and things like that. So, and
mhm,
then a lot of mind-body medicine and
mhm,
hypnotherapy and meditation and things like that that can be added into it. But it's basically an eclectic approach that takes everything that works from all the traditions, from traditional Chinese medicine, from Ayurveda, from India, from the Western
mhm.
herbal traditions. So anything that's natural and healthy and helps the body along its healing journey is kind of fair game for
Yeah.
naturopathic medicine.
Oh, yeah, thank you for that explanation. Yeah, that really helps for the listeners to get an idea. And we were just like talking about like this article, right? The histotripsy treatment, which you've heard of. And so, now people are starting to find other ways of like cancer healing through like sound and water is what this, treatment was about. And so I feel like there's a lot of that is, starting to unravel with like the use of sound, the use of vibration, the use of frequency. And so I don't know if maybe you've done some of that, work or you're just familiar with it, but I think maybe your seven pathways might be somewhat related to like the vibration of things.
Yeah, there's the one of the seven pathways of healing is the energetic pathway, so that kind of covers all the bases of the subtle energies like chi and ki and prana, and we have a lot of different words for it, but that
Mm,
energy human biofield, right, that a lot of your listeners will be familiar with. So we have the human biofield with Reiki therapy, where you're using the power of the human energy field to heal and relax and help other conditions.
mm,
And then there's the more physical, measurable, more maybe scientifically oriented energetic medicine, like microcurrent is using electricity in really small micro doses, different frequencies to heal and modulate different tissues. So microcurrent, and then there's thermal ablation where they use electricity to create heat as an energy source to kind of melt away or cook or destroy cancer cells with
Interesting.
local hyperthermia, essentially. And then there's things like saunas, which is a really, really ancient thing that's been done for thousands of years in
Mm.
different indigenous cultures. And
Like the sweat lodge
hyperthermia
or
or sauna, heating up the body helps to
really?
heat up the cancer cells, and their cancer cells are a little bit more fragile to
Mm-hmm.
and susceptible to heat than healthy cells, so
Mm-hmm.
they can't adapt as well. So when you heat up the body to 105, 110 degrees in a sauna, then that helps to make the cancer cells more weak and more fragile. And then if you do that right before chemotherapy treatment, then the cancer cells are already weakened, and that helps to knock out the cancer cells more easily.
Mm.
So that's one really cool technique to help weaken the cancer cells and kind of pre-treat before a chemotherapy treatment so that the cancer cells are pre-weakened, and then it gives it a 1-2 punch where they're more easily destroyed by the chemo.
Wow, that's really cool. I didn't know that about sauna. So is it like, like the sweat lodge was the indigenous people that they use? Is that like considered to be like something that would help the cells, the cancer cells? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of different forms of it. Sometimes they have the tent with your head sticking out, and a near infrared kind of sauna or a whole body sauna. So there's lots of different kinds of hyperthermia or heat treatment. But yeah, the sweat lodge or some like steam sauna with wet heat and some like dry sauna.
Mm-hmm.
So either way, heating up the body is a way to yeah, just make those cancer cells more pre-treated and weakened. And so there's a lot of techniques like that where you can use different lifestyle measures and treatments to pre-treat before a chemo or radiation treatment that will help to weaken the cancer cells and target the chemotherapy or radiation so that it hits the cancer cells more specifically and shies away from the healthy cells. And that helps to reduce the side effects and also increase the effects of the chemo and radiation if you are choosing a conventional route as well.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, then maybe I'll go to more sweat lodge. But you were talking about the microcurrent. That was really fascinating to me because you said using electricity for the cancer cells. Can you elaborate on that? Because I'm just curious. I have a background in electrical engineering, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, yeah, some of the frequencies are related to I don't know if you've heard of Royal Rife. He was a kind of a genius from about 100 years ago in the early 1900s that created one of the most advanced microscopes in the world.
Hmm.
And he created a frequency generator that he started to study different bacteria and different viruses under his microscope. And then he started using different frequencies. And
Oh,
just like the principle of the opera singer, getting to a certain note and the
yeah,
crystal cup just explodes because it's
yeah.
resonating at that exact frequency, and it has a sympathetic resonant frequency that just happens to match
Mm-hmm.
where it makes that crystal vase explode. He discovered different frequencies, specific frequencies that would make these different bacteria and viruses explode. And then he started to
Wow.
experiment on cancer cells and cancer cells, finding the specific frequencies for each cancer cell. And so the FDA kind of cracked down on him because he wasn't willing to share his discoveries with the medical doctors that wanted to profit from it. And so he was persecuted, and his office was raided, and all of his equipment was
Wow.
destroyed. And they kind of ruined his life. But a lot of the frequencies and things like that have been passed down for the last 100 years. And so there's these rife frequency generators that are still out there, and some
Mm.
are really expensive in the $10,000 range, but there's one that I talk about in the book that's more in the $400 range. That's a lot more affordable for average person. So it's just a one-time purchase, and then you can run through these different library of 20,000 different programs. So it's basically any kind of condition or any infection or any illness that you're working with.
Hmm.
There's a set of programs and frequencies in there that can help to. It's obviously not a cure for anything, but it just helps support the body's healing mechanisms and weaken any viruses, bacteria,
Hmm.
disease cells, things like that. So it's a really cool treatment modality using vibration and frequency to interact with the different cells in our bodies.
Yeah, so he sounds like he was way ahead of his time when he did that. I mean, just like Nicholas Tesla, right? When he was trying to give us free electricity and
Yeah, he
he
reminds me a
got
lot
shut
of
down.
Tesla.
He got shut down for that one too.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of what, this scientist was doing with a lot of the healing and also with Nikola Tesla is all going to come back sooner or later. Like we're in that stage in life, evolution of human where our consciousness, is so expanded so much that we're more open to this kind of stuff, finding ways of healing, finding ways of helping one another better, like having free electricity. um, like I don't know if you heard about the coils that were found under the Great Pyramid recently, the recent discovery.
No.
But supposedly those coils generate like a massive amount of power, and that's what they're
Mm.
finding because when they were scanning, because now they have like technology that's so advanced, right? They could scan like the Earth, like an X-ray machine, right, on the Earth, and what they saw was like these structures that were right underneath the Great Pyramid, and these were structures that were, they would say like 20 of the Eiffel Tower stacked, on top of one another. If you think about that, how massive that is. And so they look like some form of like coil. Well, they look almost like the coils that Nicholas Tesla was also doing in his experiments, early 1900s. So all of these things that are being uncovered, is some of the ancient technology that's been around that is starting to resurface now. And it's going to be used, for the new earth because it's our time to really be in our own health. We're meant to like live longer. And so a lot of the ancient civilizations, a lot of that history, that was lost, all of that's starting to resurface and come up. And I'm sure there's like tons of books there that they haven't uncovered that probably talks about all of this. Um, so yeah, this is just fascinating to me, as you can see.
And one really fascinating thing about pets is like cats purring.
Yeah,
They've kind of associated that with a specific frequency
yeah.
level. When a cat purrs, it's
Mhm.
vibrating a certain frequency that has healing vibrations. And so it's actually a symbiotic relationship where just holding a cat and having it purr in your lap is actually helping you heal, and it's helping the
Yeah,
cat heal as well.
yeah.
So another form of frequency medicine that's pretty amazing.
It's true, yeah, and I've seen studies about that, that there is truth, and that their purr does have a healing method to it. So they have their own modality of healing for others that's very soothing. And that would explain why a lot of the ancient Egyptians probably adored the cats so much,
Mhm.
right? But going back to the seven pathways about you've done like cases on this with several people, sounds like, right?
Unlock your limitless potential with the monthly multiversal circle of creation. This sacred quantum manifestation ritual will awaken your inner power and connect you to the successful versions of yourself across the multiverse. Clear blocks, amplify your creative energy, and set powerful intentions for abundance, love, and possibilities. Activate your galactic aspects, recalibrate your nervous system, and manifest your dreams with cosmic clarity. Available in person and via Zoom. Join us for this transformative experience today.
Yeah, it's exciting to be able to apply the seven pathways and helping different people. And so basically the seven pathways, there's not any specific order. So the book kind of talks about like a little, questionnaire to help you kind of choose and assess which areas are your maybe weak areas, which pathway you're kind of neglecting the most, or you're just kind of the weakest in at that moment in time. So, so it's kind of a little choose your own healing adventure where you can kind
Mhm.
of focus on the chapters in the book that focus on those
Mhm.
pathways that maybe you have the lowest scores in and things like that. So
Oh,
kind of
okay.
helps you sequence your
To narrow
order
down.
of priority for
Hmm.
study and reading the book. But
Yeah.
basically, there's the emotional pathway that kind of covers mind, body, medicine, and um, thoughts, feelings, emotions, and the law of attraction, things like that, that
Hmm.
help create that because the unseen world is what creates the seen world. So creating that blueprint of healing first at
Hmm.
the emotional, energetic level, and then helping that to manifest into physical reality is kind of the sequence there. And then the physical pathway is anything that involves moving or touching the body physically. So things like exercise and
Hmm.
fasting and deep breathing and massage therapy, things like that.
Hmm.
The molecular pathway is kind of the most obvious one where molecules are in our food or supplements or vitamins. That's what chemotherapy is molecules. So when it comes to conventional therapies, there's just essentially three of these pathways that they're focusing on. So chemotherapy is the molecular pathway, radiation is the energetic pathway, and surgery is the physical pathway, just actually cutting into the physical body.
Hmm.
So with just those three that conventional medicine focuses on, I kind of liken it to the metaphor of the bicycle wheel. So if you have a wheel that only has three sides, it's just a triangle. You're not going to be able to roll forward on your bicycle if it has triangles for wheels. So increasing those pathways and adding in the other pathways of taking into account the emotional pathway, the genetic pathway, the social pathway, um, helps to round out and inflate that metaphorical bicycle tire. So you have the well-rounded treatment plan, and there's not any flat tires or blind spots in your conventional or your comprehensive treatment plan. So that's kind of the idea. So if with just that triangle of chemo, radiation, and surgery, it's sometimes important and sometimes critical for reversing the cancer process, but it's not usually sufficient. Most everyone in my immediate circle, family and friends that have experienced people passing away from cancer have been the people that have said, no, I'm not going to do anything holistic. I'm not going to do anything natural. I'm just going to listen to what my oncologist says. And then every single one of them that I've experienced with, and I'm just one person, so I don't know what everyone else has experienced, but has just withered up and passed away. And
Yeah.
it's
I know
it's been
someone. Yeah.
really sad and really unfortunate. But if you
Yeah.
add in these other things and use the seven pathways of healing to kind of create a comprehensive treatment plan around that triangle of chemo, radiation, and surgery,
Hmm.
then it can help to relieve those side effects
Hmm.
and improve the immune system, improve the body's resilience and energy and power to heal and to recover and to come back from those treatments. So the energetic pathway we talked about a little bit already, different
Hmm.
either the invisible, subtle, non-measurable energies and the physical kind of measure energies that you can measure with an oscilloscope or something like that, where you can
Yeah.
scientifically measure them. And then the genetic pathway is, we all know there's genetic susceptibilities to certain cancers and certain
Right.
diseases. But more importantly is the science of epigenetics. It's kind of come out in the last 20 or 30 years with the Human Genome Project,
Hmm.
where epigenetics has been discovered to be a lot more of a modulator of health and wellness than just the genetics. So your genetic code is basically your entire strand of DNA, and epigenetics is which genes are expressed. So
Hmm.
it's kind of like having all the keys on the piano is your strand of DNA, and the epigenetics is which uh, chords or which keys on the piano are being played in your body right now. That's the epigenetics, the actual expression of those genes. Like they talk about, it's not really how it works, but as a metaphor, they talk about genes being turned on and turned off, things like
Yeah.
that. So there's cancer causing genes that can be turned off, and there's cancer suppressing genes that can be turned on and activated
Mm,
through diet and lifestyle and different modifiable factors and different molecules like flavonoids and things like that. So the genetic pathway is kind of how diet and lifestyle interact with your genes to optimize your health.
mm,
And then social pathway is pretty self-explanatory. We're totally social beings and
yes.
we have to have a family and friends support. So if people are living alone or if they're shut in, that makes them more susceptible to chronic disease because they're
Right.
not having that human connection and interaction.
Mm-hmm.
So they've done studies with breast cancer patients where just being in a breast cancer support group with other women has improved their
Mm,
survival times by 50%. Um, and so that's been kind of amazing, just being in a support group and just talking about their breast cancer journey with other women is actually just as powerful as a lot of the medicines that they're taking. So that's
mm,
an amazing finding that
mm,
they've had. And then the spiritual pathway is kind of hard to pin down and define for a lot of people, but I'm just kind of including that as anything that is kind of above and beyond about your connection to either God, nature, or the universe, right? So
mm,
it doesn't have to include organized religion, but it definitely can.
mm.
So things like using the placebo effect, which is the power of faith and belief in a
Yeah.
certain treatment, and prayer and meditation and
Mm-hmm.
fasting and generating love and compassion in your heart with meditation and service, just all the things that create
Mm-hmm.
those feelings of love and human connection and connection to God are all part of that spiritual pathway, as well as setting goals and having a vision for your life and creating that future vision of how you want to live the rest of your life. Because we're all going to die. There's no cure for death in general, right? So we're all going to die of something.
Mm-hmm.
So what's most important is how we're going to live, what we want to do, who we want to love and contribute to and connect to for the
Yeah.
rest of our lives with whatever time we do have. So
Mm-hmm.
that spiritual pathway is really critical for that really big picture, above and beyond the everyday humdrum of life and connecting to those healing powers that are outside of us.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I love those pathways. It's a great combination formula, for us for the healing of cancer, and it makes sense that they're all together, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, you done this work with so many others, right, that you're helping right now go through these pathways as well. And I'm sure they're finding, really great results from this, especially when you combine all of them, right? The all the energies and so forth. Did you want to share like any stories of anybody who's experienced it or?
Yeah, I'm working with a client right now who's dealing with leukemia, chronic CML leukemia, and I think he was told he was supposed to die like 5 or 10 years ago, something like that, and he's just been doing so well with his program, increasing the herbal medicine, increasing the anti-cancer foods, working with the sauna and the heat therapy. And
Wow.
he's just doing great at growing his own food in his organic garden and
Hmm.
things like that. And then the mind body piece of just understanding sometimes we have these life traumas and challenges that will come in and knock our energetic system out of whack and the mind body system, and that can trigger the cancer process. And that's kind of covered in a modality called German New Medicine or Germanic Healing Knowledge that I talk about a little bit in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And that was discovered by a German doctor named Reich Geerd Hammer.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a researcher in Germany that was studying a lot of different cancer cases and realized that a lot of these cancer cases, they would have a emotional trauma of 3, 4, 5 years before the cancer was discovered. And he's like, there must be some kind of link. And then
Mm-hmm.
while he's studying that, his son was killed, and he had this trauma of losing his son.
Yeah.
And then he developed testicular cancer after that. And then he realized there has to be a connection with this. And so just kind of putting two and two together with the cases that he was studying along with his son, realized that there's these emotional traumas that
Mm-hmm.
are actually literally connected, like he lost his son. So testicular cancer is involved with reproduction. So his body's like, we need to gear up to
Yeah.
replace and make another son. Or breast cancer can be associated with a trauma of the loss of a child, or with just a child being sick or having a near car accident that they're injured or something like that. And there's this trauma with the breast is a connection of nurturing and um, protecting your children and your loved ones,
Mm-hmm.
so that when there's that trauma and the injury about wanting to nurture and heal and soothe a loved one that is either lost or injured, the body in its wisdom is trying to generate more cells in the mammary glands to create that healing energy to create milk to nurse that loved one back to health,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. So there's this kind of, it's literal and physical, but it's also kind of a metaphorical
Yeah.
process that your body's trying to do to recover and to do its best to heal from this trauma. And so through lifestyle changes and counseling and understanding that inner work of repair, this German new medicine or Germanic healing knowledge
Mm-hmm.
practitioners are able to help to correct that emotional trauma and heal those things on the emotional level, and then that helps the body to correct physiologically and reverse the cancer process on the
Mm.
physical plane as well. So it's really amazing stories go along
Yeah.
with that one.
That is really interesting. Yeah. So to wrap this up, right? First of all, your new book that's coming out, can you give us like a key takeaway from it? What is it about?
Yeah, it covers these 7 pathways of healing that we talked about, and it covers kind of the basics of cancer and the goals that we have with cancer. Of there's certain things that we need to do in general, that the processes of cancer. So there's kind of a good introduction with the vocabulary of metastasis and apoptosis and these words that people may not be familiar with. So helping to explain a lot of the terminology around cancer and the process of how it works and what the goals are of what we want to do. And then it goes through all the different treatments and remedies found in these 7 pathways of healing. And then the last chapter kind of ties it all together. If you're going through surgery or radiation or chemotherapy, the things that you can do to sensitize the cancer cells to be more susceptible to radiation or to chemotherapy, and the things to protect your healthy cells to be less damaged and have fewer side effects from the chemo radiation, things like
Mhm.
that. So it's one of the most comprehensive cancer books that I've ever seen, as far as the number of choices and options that it gives.
Mhm.
So it's all about building hope that no matter what a doctor may tell you, if you have 6 months to live or there's nothing we can do for you,
Yeah.
they're just not educated on these other pathways, these other treatments, these other remedies, and they are being scientifically studied, but they're not studying the scientific literature on
Mhm.
herbs or essential oils or hyperthermia and things like that for cancer, they're stuck in their
Mhm.
have their blinders on of what
Yeah.
they're good at and what they're trained in.
Right.
So the idea is there's always hope for you, even if a doctor says you have this negative prognosis. So if you're going to die in a certain amount of time, those things are just statistics and
Mm-hmm.
just numbers that are based on people that just follow the conventional medicine. So it's like if you only listen to the oncologist, this is what's going to happen. You have 2 years to live or whatever they're going to
Right.
say. But if you build that comprehensive treatment plan with the 7 pathways of healing around your life,
Mm-hmm.
then there's this upward spiral of healing, and you can get better and better and improve more and more
Mm-hmm.
with every step you take and every treatment that you try. And so, no matter what, there's always hope for you, and
Yeah.
you can heal. And your body is a magnificent, marvelous invention of glorious healing potential.
Mm-hmm.
And I never ever want you to give up on yourself or anyone else that you love.
Oh, thank you for those words of encouragement. Yes, there's always hope. Thank you for sharing, so much about this through the 7 pathways. I just want to tell the listeners that you can find all of Dr. David Lemmon's contact information in the show notes, including the books that are upcoming that you can order for yourself. But I would definitely highly recommend to go back and review the 7 pathways that Dr. David just shared with us in the show. It's a quick highlight, but of course, you'll get all the details in the books as well. Um, any final thoughts for us, Dr. David?
I'm just so excited for this opportunity to be here with your audience and share this message, but just yeah, never give up and keep learning, keep studying, and keep expanding your horizons.
Mm.
And there's always hope.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much for your time, for being with us. And I will catch all of you listeners in the quantum field.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to click like, save, and share with others so they can also experience what you just experienced. And stay tuned for some more high vibe episodes. And I'll be connecting with you in the next quantum field. Sending you so much love.